Hello everybody! Disventure Camp Season 4 has just begun, and with that, it's time for my season predictions. Before starting, a few things to note. At the time of this video, I am only using Episode 1, Episode 2, auditions, original voice lines on the casting club call audition thing, and the season trailer. Background footage is owned by Animation Cartoons, not me. These are my personal predictions/analysis. If you have different, it's completely fine. I would love to read yours in the comments down below. For my videos, I do sections to maintain organization and simplicity, which are elimination order/character arc predictions and the conclusion. To make it clear what I am predicting here, I am predicting the elimination order, certain votes, character arcs, merge, and the returning situations. I am not predicting twists themselves usually, as again, there's no clues to those yet, and it's 26 episodes, so there's a lot of time for that to settle, and most of them would just end up being random and incorrect anyways. Exact episode plots or exact challenges, because let's be real, how would I ever be able to get like something like the roller coaster challenge with that trailer? No? Anyways, with all that out of the way, let's get this started.
Hey, Spence.
You busy? Because I think it's time we take over this team and lock in a core 5.
As I did with my Disventure Camp All-Stars predictions, I'll be giving at minimum 3 reasons for why each character is eliminated at the place they are, and later on, I'll be discussing reasons they stayed as long as they did. As well, to quickly note, I'm going to be going over the duos and trios the season has had so far, because this will come into play later on and even earlier in some of the pre-merge type eliminations, predictions, stuff like that. So we have Anastasia and Marissa as a duo, Isabel and Natalia as a duo, Ted and Linda, I assume. I'm just going to throw them together because they're the main antagonists. And from trailers and what we've seen in episode 2, they are interacting, and even in the intro. Logan, Richard, and Alicio, Spencer, Diego, and Jade, Tristan, Ivy, Zaid, Hannah, Benji, and Amelie. Alrighty, now that we've got that gone, let's start off with who I think is the second boot of Disventure Camp Carnival of Chaos. 18th, Amelie. Ultimately, I'd much rather predict Benji going here, but due to the season trailer, the only one I can realistically see eliminated is Amelie. The first reason, we know that from the season trailer, Red Team does lose. We can also confirm from that same trailer that Benji being the most one important here, Spencer, Diego, and Hannah survived the first elimination, meaning the only ones possible to go are Ivy, Zaid, Tristan, Amelie, and Jade. Number 2, Amelie has rubbed many people the wrong way. Jade and Spencer are what we could consider the power players on Red Team, and she is not only suspicious of Jade, which I'm guessing Jade would at least eventually figure out, or maybe she's already figured out. I mean, she was just staring from the back, whatever. Still, that means she also angled Spencer from leaving a log on him, meaning she could be their just easy out target, and especially if Spencer is more in control here than Jade is, I could easily see Spencer just getting at Amelie for being just more petty there. Number 3, the predictable Alicio was an extremely expected first boot, not completely negative in my eyes, but still, so she could be no different than that here, because again, with her negative attitude, it's very clear that she can be a predictable second boot. For her arc, given how quickly Alicio's wrapped up, my assumption is a quick redemption in a way with Hannah, because Hannah is the one she's interacted the most with episode 1 and episode 2. Therefore, at minimum, she develops a soft spot for Hannah and realizes that she can care for others and not completely focus on her company from her elimination. And as that would end up her downfall in this scenario because of her attitude, because of how she's run the company. I don't think they're going to end her completely negatively despite her demeanor, as I think that's being saved for Linda and Ted, the antagonists of the season thus far, at least at this point. Moving on to 17th, Benji. Shocked he isn't an earlier boot, but alas, all he's done so far is make out-of-pocket remarks that are not funny in the slightest to me, but even if they are to you, here are the reasons I think he's out. Number 1, no real plot of his own. Yes, he is surviving past a few more episodes. We can tell that from the season trailer. But just being comic relief will not let him last in much, especially on Red Team. There is so many interesting characters with different, unique plot lines. He does not fit well into that as the others. What has he truly done past remarks, y'all? In episodes 1, episode 2, and stuff like that. I don't know. Number 2, not in any major alliance. We already know Spencer, Diego, Jade, and Tristan, Ivy, and Zayd trios, along with the broken up now, I'm assuming the previous elimination theory is correct, Hannah/Amelie duo. Free agent maybe, however, Spencer did not mention him being a part of the Power 5, plus the only other one he's meaningfully interacted with at this point that we've seen on screen is with Hannah. This means he would be at the bottom of the current red team fire structure, whatever you want to call it. And let's be real, Hannah has much better social prowess. She could escape this kind of bottom team scenario. He could not escape that. Number 3, upsetting others. A part of his one character trait or multiple character traits he showcased, every remark he makes creates tension around him, making them read it out uncomfortable at the works. And when push comes to shove, he's going to be the next obvious push away out of the red team. He has also not shown any true challenge skills. As shown in episode 4, he's literally fearful of everything, running in panics. I assume episode 4 is when the clown part of the season trailer comes. And even when he's hanging out in episode 2, he's just afraid. He just causes so much tension in a way. Therefore, he could easily lose it for his team. I also have a 4th reason. My friend wants him to get voted out immediately. 1000% justification for this prediction. Now for his arc, since I have confidence he is not Dan, I assume it could be a possible plotline maybe, with maybe like more friendship with Hannah. The intro hints at this, or just a close dynamic, or whatever that's considered. And to give him a little bit of credit, maybe he learns to not say the most awkward things and is able to develop past that thanks to Hannah's help. Of course, he also has his comic relief character. I say quote unquote comic relief, a part of his character too. Moving on to number 16, Richard. Another one that seems like a pre-merge right from the get-go to set up a bigger picture from those around him, mainly Logan. Therefore, an extremely early boot fits for Richard with a few reasons. Number 1, comic relief. Now you might be thinking, Alexa, there needs to be comic relief. I don't see what your point is here. We already have Logan for that on the blue team. I don't see why they would keep over the others in that regard when they all have more interesting plot points to them. Yes, his backstory, sweet, wholesome, whatever, but that isn't enough to make him an interesting character to last long. Kind of similar to Benji's reasonings at this rate. Number 2, serving to Logan. To me, his main purpose in the season is to serve whatever Logan's gonna do. Spoiler alert, it'll be a while before discuss what Logan's probably gonna do, at least my theory on him, so just give that a bit. And there's only so long that can truly last, and why should it? Wouldn't it motivate Logan more if not just Alicio, but the only other person he had made connections with, Richard, go? It benefits Logan's character so much more. Number 3, we've already seen something similar. Comparisons to Connor here, he reminds me so much of him, and we know how that went, except without the Rhea hyperfixation. Already a 10-time better character, jokes aside, I don't see why they'd do that and make Richard go far in that process. He doesn't seem to have that plot to keep him going in the game. Strategy 2, there's only so much magic Ted can work to save him. And in the end, Ted is going to work to save himself over the duo, Richard, Logan, any day of the week, any day, daily. His arc, I already mentioned somewhat. I think it'll be mentoring the other contestants, but mainly Logan and making him feel comfortable to be himself. Knowing the original casting call of voice lines are canon, again, that is later on when we get to Logan, given Richard's own past and current life. Then he'll feel accomplished in making some contestants happy, mentored, whatever you want to call it, and leave Logan giving Logan advice, and therefore motivating Logan to do the best he can for Alicio, for Richard, and for himself. So wholesome. Now on to something I can already believe there's going to be a few comments asking how on planet Earth I think Jade is going to be going. So on to 15th Jade, I think she will be getting an earlier departure. Now, here are my reasonings. Number 1, unpredictability. All of Richard, Alicio, Amelia, and Benji, going by my predictions, are somewhat people you would kind of expect to be booted earlier. You wouldn't think they'd make it far. The opposite is true for Jade. Her strategy, her plot, why would she go so early? From Disventure Camp All-Stars, we know unpredictable eliminations are always in the cards. Who on earth expected the final 4 to be Connor, Rhea, Allie, and Jake, with Allie going in 3rd, or Gabby being eliminated same placement in a TED Talk challenge? More of a ramble now, but she would have that sort of elimination to really spice up the latter episodes and really cause some conflict in the later half of pre-merge, if that's what we're considering this is. Or maybe we're considering it as the early end to the whatever you want to consider it. Number 2, strategy, and Hannah would side with the other trio. Yes, just the idol clue, and she's more than likely gonna find it or something like that, but I think it's where she flaws. Her usage of it, assuming she gets again, she might not even get it at all. Maybe she just spends episodes and episodes looking for the idol clue, she doesn't even find it. This would allow her strategy to crack and her to go, which would allow development later on. Hint, hint. We're gonna have to discuss the position of Red Team now to understand why I think Hannah would side with the Tristan Ivy Zay tree. Okay, at this point in the competition, assuming Benji and Amelia are gone, Jade and Spencer and Diego are on one side, Ivy, Zayd, and Tristan on the other, being the two trios. Then there's Hannah, the middle one, the one who decides the majority. And again, I assume she's standing with the Tristan, Ivy, Zayd thing. She hasn't talked to any of these people yet, so it's kind of hard to tell who she'd get along with better. However, I'm assuming from Spencer/Jade's possible dislike of Amelie, Diego maybe too, we haven't really seen that, but we do know his frustrated face was at Amelie, so, I mean, and he hasn't shown that to anyone else yet. She would choose the other ones for that. Plus, Tristan is just so chill, Ivy's Ivy, and they'd be really sweet and welcome to her naturally. I would also think Hannah would view the other trio as more strategic, more of a threat, and also physical challenges, and thus a bigger issue for the time being. Number 3, this allows Spencer and Diego to grow. Spencer's main dynamic is Jade. His main ally is Jade. If he had to choose Jade or Diego to talk to, 9 times out of 10, it's gonna be Jade. See, though, his dynamic with Diego is 99.9% of a chance, in my own opinion, a slow burn main coupleship. And as long as Jade's there, I'm doubting he's gonna put forth much effort into conversing with him unless he's practically forced to. But if Jade sends home, doesn't that force him? It's an entirely different story now. Diego is that dynamic, that person he has to talk to, and moves the dynamic along, gives them development, and before you say, Jade's character won't be sacrificed to this, I would like to introduce you to Ashley from Disventure Camp All-Stars on Magenta team. Anyways, her arc for her first section, I'd note it's her strategy and how that affects her. Her gameplay, how that ties into her marine biology interest. Her struggles with vitiligo, both implied from the casting call lines and her audition tape at this point, without much diving into that as saving it for later. And again, she goes for Spencer and Diego's sake. And this also shakes up the team dynamic tenfold because isn't she one of the power players at this point? Anyways, 14th, Marissa. So much of me wants her to just make merge for Anastasia's sake. However, just from this, I don't think it's in the cards. Wasn't meant to be, in a way. Unlike her and Anastasia. Anyways, one of the Anastasia and Marissa going, it would be Marissa, story-wise, and they have already gotten so close already. Within canon, a day's time, mind you, the two are already holding on to each other. Fast-paced a bit, don't you think? This to me signifies one of the two of Anastasia and Marissa is going early, because that plot's ending fast, come on. And who would go first? Marissa not only doesn't have as much story as Anastasia so far, Anastasia is the one with the rivalry with Linda, and from her casting call lines and also foreshadowing in the audition, there's so much of her we haven't seen. And all of that mixed with what I'm about to say, it'd be her. Number 2, the guys want to target Marissa, and Linda would want to target her as revenge on Anastasia. From the first elimination, we know they targeted Marissa for her losing the challenge, and they didn't target her first over any of the girls they could target. I think the guys would continue this, and Linda would join too. She's petty, and Anastasia hates her. Why get Anastasia out herself? When you can get out her strongest ally, the one person she's truly loyal to, helps her feel comfortable. Out. Now here, in this situation, we have a 4-3 in terms of flipping. I think this is where Ted/Linda work together as antagonists to get one of the girls to flip. Be manipulated or similar. Could be Isabel and Natalia, but this allows all characters involved to grow or showcase what's needed on for later in the season. And just, again, really shakes up the team in the end of it all. Plus, if they do eliminate Marissa, it throws Anastasia so off her game, and I think that's the perspective Linda would have on this. Number 3, /leader/ again, kind of not much plot. Given the nature of how they'll single-handedly need to defeat a 4-girls alliance, they would want to get the threats out. Marissa would definitely be considered that over some of the others. Especially given her position as team leader, it would make her even more of a target. This is also exemplified in Disventure Camp Season 1 with Tom. Yes, she does have Anastasia, but otherwise she has shown nothing in terms of plot, and we have covered that that's ending soon. Onto her arc, obviously her dynamic with Anastasia, which I mentioned way too many times already, but also her feeling she's ready to be a leader, her being confident as that. Given how much doubt happened from her losing the challenge for her team, making her feel she belongs thanks to Anastasia, getting her head held high for the army. Number 13, or 13th place, Zayd. Please let this prediction be wrong, because I am a huge fan of Zayd. Still, I don't see him sticking around for long, sadly. Number 1, out of all the trio members, he'd go first. Ivy can be a parallel to Rhea. Tristan not only has the fashion's interest backing them, but their diversity to get to see on a deeper level would be so interesting, and I think they'd want to keep them around for that. And Zayd, not only that, from what we've seen from the terms of the trio, if we were to argue who's closer with who, he certainly is not in the top spot in terms of that. He is a chef. Great, love that. Cool. But past that, we don't have enough. More on this in a second. Number 2, not enough strategy, only known plot, or at least assumption right now, is with Ivy. And I guess his friendship with Tristan, if you want to count that too. What strategy has Zayd employed? You need strategy to make it far. Unless you're Jake. Jokes at Josie's side. He doesn't have any gameplay attached. Therefore, how far could that let him float? And for now, basing off the intro, he might have a romance plot with Ivy. Please, I ship them, okay? Love it. But if that's all we're getting hints of right now, other than his backstory in episode 2, I believe, yeah, I don't see him making it much farther. And if they're able to finish Marissa and Anastasia fast, they can do it here too. Number 3, positioning him being part of the trio. Sort of mentioned this before, but if we think that Jade goes, then being a part of the trio is actually his downfall now. Because Hannah will have to team up with Spencer and Diego, even if she doesn't want to, in order to make sure these 3 don't take over this entire team and eventually the game completely. At least here. I also think she'd choose Zayd to get out because out of everyone, he is who they want to be closest to. And also, if we're thinking from Spencer and Diego's perspective, we're going to think on Spencer's because Diego has literally said no opinions on anybody but like Spencer at this rate. Anyways, Spencer said Tristan was friendly originally, so based off that one line, I think they would choose to target someone else that is not Tristan. And especially if Ivy and Zayd begin becoming a duo, that would cause one of them to go, and Ivy's parallels are way too much to miss at this point. Now moving on to the 12th place finisher, Natalia. Oh my gosh. She's another one I really do not want to see go, because she reminds me so much of Lashana, and I adore that, but I think she has to go for the other plots, and also because I think this placement would fit her. Number 1, social threat. Natalia's entire job is public relations with people, fixing what their public perceptions are. Her entire thing is that. And because of that, she has an amazing social game because she knows how to maneuver through the game like that. She knows how to fix her own public perception. She'll know how to fix the others' public perceptions. And what are others going to view that as? A threat. Not only that, Natalia has mainly worked on her bonds with like Isabel and things like that. Therefore, she'd have to reach out to other people, and I think that could also be too little too late in a way. Number 2, not much of a plot, still makes it decently far. I do think it'd be really interesting if Natalia were to cover Linda's tracks or do something like that with public relations there. However, from the first 2 episodes, that does not seem like that is what she's gonna do. All she's really done is interact with Isabel at this point. Be like some comic relief for the team, just be kind of chill, just be an icon in a way. But either way, that is not enough plot to carry you too far. And again, I keep saying this, but this cast is so intriguing. It's so interesting. So if Natalia's not gonna have much of a plot, I don't know if she can stay for that long. I do still think that the last pre-merge boot, spoiler alert, is still a pretty good placement for her because she still get decently far. And as well as Lashana, from my memory, it's been forever since I've rewatched Full Drama Island, but as I'm making comparisons to Lashana, in a way, Lashana made it really far without too much of a plot point, or at least a personal plot point, and then got robbed, so I think that similar could happen here, but even though it's a little bit sooner, it's still decently far. I argue late pre-merges. I know I keep saying that word, decently far, but it would work for Natalia. And on to number 3. I don't think she's made enough connections outside of Isabel at this point to have her stay, and especially given her threat level and all of that combined. I also think if she was the one manipulated, I'd more so think it'd be like Isabel, I guess, would have a more chance of flipping than Natalia. But if it was Natalia that flipped, you have the girls targeting Natalia. You'd have the Ted, Logan, assuming that Logan is aligned with Ted in this scenario, which I assume so. Linda, they'd all be gunning for Natalia for that reason, even past the fact that she's a social threat, and just working and manipulating the team to get out that person. And if we're thinking from that strategic mindset, Natalia is done for. Now for her arc. Again, as I've stated, she has not had much of a plot more than just being kind of some comedic relief. One of the only ones that's working so far, in my own personal opinion. But I think she could have a personal arc about maybe like the public relations thing. Maybe we get to see more of her thought process on Isabel's past and her helping out Isabel. I wish I had something more concrete, or at least more specific, to tell you all in terms of Natalia. But the sad thing is, Natalia hasn't got much screen time. She hasn't gotten really much to do in terms of plot, and therefore that is her quote-unquote downfall here in this. Alrighty, as I just said, Natalia being the last pre-merge boot, we can move right on to merge. Merge is, in my own opinion, or at least my predictions, are going to be Hannah, Anastasia, Isabel, Ivy, Linda, Ted, Logan, Tristan, Spencer, and Diego. Pretty fast, but I'm going to explain why I think all these guys are going to be in the merge. Alrighty, I decided on 10 people for the merge, as that was what happened in an 18-person cast for Disventure Camp All-Stars, so I'm going to assume the same happens here. Remember those original duos and trios I mentioned at the beginning, like 19 minutes ago? Here, I wanted to make sure there was a minimum of one from each, which means Hannah from the Amelie, Benji, and Hannah, trio thing, Isabel from the Isabel-Natalia duo, Anastasia from the Marissa and Anastasia duo, Logan from the Alicia, Richard, and Logan trio. Given there are 7 trios/duos and 10 spots here in the merge, multiple of these had to have 2 people in the merge, which became Linda and Ted's duo. At this point, I think they are the main antagonists of the season in this scenario, meaning both make the merge for that exact reason. We need to have that conflict, we need to have that drama, and I also need to see them both interact with the red team members. So, Spencer and Diego out of Spencer, Jade, and Diego trio. Given that they are a slumber romance, the longer they stay, the longer time it is for it to be more fleshed out. Some romances can take literal seasons, especially if they're slow burn, so if they want to really elevate that slow burn aspect, I think they keep them for longer, whether that's wanted or not. Ivy and Tristan, both for the story potential to do Proud by Zayd, etc. I just decided to throw them because I feel like they would have a higher chance to make it farther here. Anyways, on to the 11th, which I think is going to be Linda. I think she's going to be the main pre-merge antagonist, or at least the main secondary pre-merge antagonist. However, she is the one who makes way for Ted, because I think Linda, in the end of it, though has her own unique properties as a character and has her own unique character, I think that Ted will be the one to take over and has a way more better idea to be an antagonist. But either way, let's get into the actual reasons. Number 1, early main antagonist and takes the pulp for Ted. Kind of like what I just said. Like Premier Season 2, you got eliminated to allow for Rhea to take over. I know I just said something similar here, but I'm just offering an example here. Anyways, number 2 allows Anastasia to get revenge and complete that arc while also having her own personal turmoil finished. I think the fact that she's a housewife is going to play into her arc somehow as an antagonist. Maybe we get to see her own thoughts on being a housewife and see how that affects her own as a character, something like that. And Anastasia's got to get revenge. If we're assuming that Marissa gets eliminated, 1000% Linda's gonna have a main part in that. And Anastasia is gonna be bitter rivaling with Linda to the freaking end at this rate. And therefore, this allows Anastasia's character to grow because she gets revenge. She organizes that elimination. She gets that justice from Marissa. Just beautiful in a way. We can also get her character, I feel like, finished at this rate, so I think it's fine. Number 3, since she is just bad at acting, the others will catch on quick and she will be targeted out. Something to note. Linda said in her audition that, I'm going to act so innocent and stuff like that. What acting has she done, really? Because honestly, all she's done is insult Marissa in a way, and that to me is not acting nice. If she was acting nice to Marissa, Anastasia would not be on her back. Obviously, it offers flaws and makes her different from Riori, so I'm happy she's doing it, but on the other flip of a coin, this is not good for her strategy. It's messy, and it's not gonna work when it comes to the merge. She's gonna have to change it up, and there's only so much magic. Again, Ted's gonna be able to work. The main antagonist always must have some weakness in their strategy in a way, and I think that will be the weakness for Ted. Losing Linda, which causes him to have to really weave through and really make it to the end, really making it a fighting chance in a way. Now we can move right on to the returnee, which I think, spoiler alert, is gonna be Jade. Since it's Disventure Camp All-Stars with an 18-person cast, they did the returnee at a halfway point. Now eliminated, I am assuming the same here happens with Jade. Looking at everyone who could return in this scenario, it is obvious to me that it would be Jade. Linda and Natalia, sort of Zayd, all recently got eliminated. There is no point in bringing them right back because of it. At that point, why have them eliminated at all? Alicia, Amelia, and Richard all serve their purposes and wouldn't add too much if they returned. Maybe Amelia, but then again, that seems way too similar to Carnival's return in Season 2, and I don't think they'd want that repeated. Marissa, though a cool idea, would probably be eliminated right away, and we have the Anastasia Marissa moments in the finale, or assuming they do similar to DCS comeback episode, they can chat there. Overall, not a real reason to bring her back over the others. Benji, though funny, doesn't have a purpose to return unless they would want to waste a returnee spot, or if they decide to 180 his character and make him learn strategy, closer with Hannah, the works. Or we could have the Benji sweep. Interesting opposite for her, but compared to Jade, Okay, if we're assuming that Jake gets out 15th as in my own theory, there is still so much to explore. She could continue her dynamic with Spencer, fix her original mistakes in the strategy, focus more on her background, rather than that strategy, get to just focus on her character. Make her more of an individual too now that she doesn't have to fully stick to Spencer, she can talk to people on the blue team, as she may find that a reason of elimination. Too much potential to pass up to Benji of all characters, I'm sorry. Now on to all of the rest of the merge eliminations. 10th, Ivy. I know I said this for a lot of characters, but I really don't hope that she's going this early. I hope she makes it to the very end if we can. Let's make her win so we know what a good Rhea winner is. I'm just joking, but either way, number 1. This allows enough time for the Rhea parallel to sink in, though that exact reason is why I don't think she could make it farther. Rhea has gotten first and second respectively, and she is an actress. I don't think they would do something similar with having Ivy make it all the way to the end, because I think they would view that as way too repetitive. So they still let her make it decently far, but not far enough. Despite her having, I think, the most amount of character in the first 2 episodes, besides like Spencer per se, and maybe Jade if we're really thinking about it. Either way, I think she is done for at this point, because at this rate, she's lasted too long and she's gotta get, in a way, at least compared to Rhea. So Rhea is the reason she can't make it further, to me, in a way. Either way, number 2. Between Tristan and her, Tristan has so far shown better gameplay socially and physically, not only winning them the challenge using their fashion skills, but also socially, as again, Spencer said Tristan first, before Ivy, before Zayd, Tristan. I know I keep saying that one line, but again, Spencer and Jade are the main people taking control of Red Team as we know it right now. Therefore, I'm using their word as a lot of importance for strategy at this rate. Remember, I've got 2 episodes to base it off of and some trailers, y'all. Either way, we'll also need to make more of a plot for themselves. Strategically, I think Ivy can be really good at it, but in another sense, I don't think she's going to be able to relate to a lot of people. Yeah, she's social, yeah, she's fun, but in the end, Hannah's going to be able to do that a lot better than Ivy ever will. And because of that, and especially since Ivy is attached to the hip with Tristan, or at least people will view it as that, Ivy's not going to be able to make it too far. Number 3, no more Zayd plot non-concurrent to let her stay story-wise. Again, I'm assuming that there's going to be an Ivy and Zayd romance plot because of the intro, and the intro foreshadows tons of crap that happens later on in the season. Therefore, when I say non-concurrent to let her stay story-wise, all we have right now is her trio with Zayd and Tristan. You eliminate Zayd, and especially if that's going to be a romance plot, there's only so much that Ivy's going to be able to do and have a friendship with Tristan. And at that point, how long can she truly stay? Again, I would love for Ivy to make it far, but I don't think that's in the cards here. For Ivy's arc, I'm going to just say it's something about the acting industry. Again, we know that her goal here is to prove that acting, being an actress, it doesn't turn you evil. Being on the show, it doesn't turn you evil. I'd kind of be interested to see if she does turn just a little bit morally great. Maybe she has this evil line, and she's realizing that she's becoming what she proved not to be, and backtracks from that, becoming better. And even if it sacrifices her game, she sticks to her philosophies. She sticks to what she believes in. She sticks to proving the point that she originally came to prove. She sticks to becoming more of an actress, or at least sharing those types of tips. And especially since she's musical theater, one little hope: please have a musical theater focused plot line with one of the musical theater people. Aiden was a musical theater, made it like 3rd and 7th respectively, if remembering his correct placement in Disventure Camp All-Stars, and he got no musical theater plotline or anything like that. And even Rhea being an actress, it is sort of to the Hollywood industry a little bit, but it's more of her own personal thing. So really hoping we can get to see some of that out of Ivy. And going into 9th, Diego. Partially, I would want him to go way much earlier, but assuming his dynamic with Spencer and the slow burn romance theory I'm having is correct, yeah, Diego's staying for the long run. Number 1, plot armor finally runs out. The main couple of these shows will always have plot armor, and I will always stand by that. They will always be able to stay longer because, again, they're the main romance, they're the main couple. They aren't going to be gone. But at this point, I think it's finally run out. We can see in Disventure Camp All-Stars, from memory, Tom got 10th, 11th, 9th, around that placement. It's been a hot second since I've rewatched the season. Either way, because of that original placement, I think that Diego could fall somewhere around that for this season as well. And at that point, I think it's just gone, because To an extent, how long can Diego stay? I'm going to go into my next point, which is number 3, not too much of a threat to let stay. Because if we're assuming the Jade return is true here, you have Spencer, Jade, and Diego as a trio reunited. The others are going to notice, and they're going to notice by banding together and kicking one of them out instantly. And that person is going to be Diego. He is a physical threat. He can do really well in comps. Not only that, because he can do really well in comps, he also has a social prowess too. He's really kind to everybody naturally, but because of that, that's gonna get him out. I'm sorry, because of that social threat level. As well, the fact he knows so much about nature. He knows this island like the back of his hand, or camp area, or whatever this is, wherever they are, he'd know it like just the back because of his experience in nature. And because of that, I think that would also make him even more of a threat because he would know how to handle all of the things around him. Maybe that could also be reason to stay, but even if it was considered reason to stay, they'd view his threat level as much more important. Number 3 is he's not as interesting as Spencer. Yes, I do think that Diego has potential given his nature interests, his animal love, but in the end, it's not going to work out compared to Spencer, who has social awkwardness, dynamics with Jade, strategy decisions, and not only the fact that Spencer is the one who's kind of just rejecting it, that's something interesting. We haven't really seen it before, unless we're thinking Jaden, which, yeah, I see the parallels to Jaden and Diego and Spencer. I don't know what their ship name is yet, so we'll just keep it as that. But either way, if we're comparing to who's going to make it farther, because let's be real, one of the two is making it to the very end, whether we like it or not in a way, I just think it easily be Spencer staying and Diego heading out that elimination boat. Yes, an elimination boat this season. Either way, the arc thought that I'm having for him, not only are we discussing the slow burn with Spencer here, I'm also thinking that Diego could have a bit of a nature plotline, or maybe his kindness, or maybe about the money. I know, again, it isn't too specific, but I have two episodes to base this off of. We don't have any prior knowledge of these characters like what happened in Disventure Camp All-Stars, where we already knew where the characters might be headed because of their previous seasons. 2 episodes to scout out to make something on. I don't know. I know I keep commenting on that, but again, either way, 8th. I think 8th is going to be to Hannah. Now, I don't know how I feel about Hannah going here. I think it'd just be fine. I mean, at this rate, it's like, maybe we get to see Hannah have that Damien plotline. I think it'd be interesting. We'll get into that more in a second, but number 1, 8th place is cursed. Let's recall the 8th places from all previous Disventure Camp seasons. 8th of season 1 goes to Gabby, season 3 goes to Gabby, season 2 goes to Lake. What does this all have in common? Gabby and Lake are some of the biggest fan favorites you will find in Disventure Camp fandom. So, whereas Total Drama has 5th as the cursed placement, here we've got 8th. Therefore, someone really likable, really social, someone that can be viewed as robbed. And who better than Hannah, the likable bartender? Either way, number 2. She's made it long enough to have one of the 7 trios, duos, and final 8, so it's time for her to prove herself. If you haven't noticed at this point, my final 8 right now is Hannah, Logan, Tristan, Anastasia, Jade, Spencer, Ted, and Isabel. Because of that, I have one from every duo, every trio. There's one of each here, and at this point, that's what I wanted. I wanted at least one from every final 8, and now that that purpose has been served, how much does she need to stay here? And she can also have the time to prove herself. She's already had the time to show her gameplay skills, and especially for considering how she's going to be able to control the fire team later on due to Benji's and Amelia's departure, it being somewhat of a positive for her because of the control she's going to be able to have. I think at that point, she doesn't need to stay much longer. Number 3, Twist eliminates her overall social threat. Again, as mentioned earlier, her social game is going to be off the charts. It's all she does for a living, for crying out sakes. If that's what she's doing, she's going to be able to ride that social game. And that's going to get her out because of the threat level they're going to view her as. They might like her, but they're going to realize that in the end, if she's decent at challenges in her social game, she could easily wiggle her way out of most situations, and that's going to be huge in this game. And I also think a Twist can eliminate her because, I mean, season 3 exists. Or it's just some sort of vote, or they view her as a threat. Either way, I don't see her making further. For her arcs, I instantly think that it's going to be proving herself and going past the independence given from Benji and Melee. Because of that, she's going to learn how to become more strategic. I also think we're going to see her really start playing the game, or at least have something like Damien's, where she does know the game, but in a way she learns it over time. She wants to stay. And this time, unlike Damien getting eliminated the same episode, she gets to stay. She gets to compete. She gets to really show show off her skills, and maybe we get to see more of her background. I do think from more auditions, she could become more than just the nice girl of the season, which every season's had thus far, unless season 1, because season 1's the best Disventure Camp season in my own opinion. Either way, moving on to 7th place, which I think would be Logan. Number 1. I think he'd make it far due to plot. He has tons of potential. Because we know from his audition tape, he has 3rd in the Olympics. He really tries he doesn't like to talk about it. Maybe we could see how that bothers him. Ice dancers, redonkulous race, 3rd place bothered them like it was no one's business. If they got 3rd, they were throwing things all around. Maybe we get to see how this affects Logan. How him not being the first, how him not winning the Olympics affects him mentally, affects him on a deeper level. Not only that, we know from his casting call lines that he's worried to tell his family something about himself. Maybe we get to really explore that in the season. Maybe Richard gives him that encouragement to open up to everybody, to open up, be more himself, and be comfortable being himself in a way. I think that could also happen. We also have the fact that he's the comic relief. I know I used comic relief as a reason for getting a lot of these people out, but in the end, you do need one, and I do think Logan can serve that perfectly because he also has the plots to back it up. Logan also has awesome social games, so from that, he can just keep on staying. As well, because he isn't the smartest of the Shad, I do think they wouldn't view him as much of a threat as some of the others. As well, number 2, I know I just said this, a lot of these are threat things. Logan is gonna be such a social threat, not only because of his kindness, but also more of a physical threat I would like to focus on. Because of his thing in the Olympics, he's gonna have a lot of physical prowess. And because of that, that's gonna make him a huge threat and challenge. It's just win, win, win. And at that rate, if he just keeps on those winning streaks, they're gonna want to get him out just to give chances to other people to win, and also give more of a chance for them to win, because in the end, if you're likable, and if you're physically good in the challenges, yeah, you're going to be able to win easily in the finale, as long as you're up against an easier opponent. Number 3, farther than the trio, he's done what he needs to do. I know this is kind of similar to reason to Hannah, but again, he kind of has the same plot line to Hannah, to where he's trying to stay to not only make his previous alliance proud, but also have his own plots in the end. Plus, it isn't a Wayne situation. He doesn't win. I don't have to witness Wayne winning season 2 reboot despite doing basically nothing other than comedic relief. Truly peak. I know comparing Logan to Wayne is odd, but they just remind me so much of each other, at least in the first 2 episodes here. For the arcs, I've already discussed them in the plot potential type of thing, so I'm just going to move right on to, I think, a 6, which I think is going to be Tristan. Sadly, I want Tristan to make finale if they could. But again, I just don't know how that could happen in this case. I don't see it. So let's go on to the first reason. Going on for me, like for the trio, plots of the trio. Again, I keep on saying this, but a lot of these plot lines are going for the trio, plots of the trio, etc., etc. Because of that, I don't think Tristan needs to stay much longer. As well as number 2, their diversity and exploring that along with their social personality. They are the first non-binary in any of these shows. From my knowledge, again, I probably have missed a few Told Drama fan shows out there. I'm not one who's researching so darn hard to find them. So if this is the first, at least I've seen, exploring that, or at least getting to see their identity or past their identity, how it can, etc. Things like that could be really interesting because it is the first, at least in my own eyes. I don't know, there could be another one, but along with their social personality. Tristan is social, they're friendly, and they're able to make friends fast. They're able to get along with everybody from what we've seen. And they don't like causing fights. They don't like starting things. And we can see this in episode 2 when they fear so much to fight with Richard. They don't like those fights and they don't want it to happen. Maybe this can explore more into their backstory as well. Anyways, number 3, I think Tristan would be a huge strategy threat and awesome socially. Strategy-wise, I think Tristan can be really good at it too because of their social connections. If Tristan has the social, they can make themselves really well strategically positioned if they know how to play their cards right. And especially with Ivy gone, that instantly takes off some of the threat level off the bat because that duo's gone. There's other problems ahead of them, and plus again, that social game is going to really carry them. Now let's discuss some Tristan plots. Again, I do think we're going to explore the non-binary identity and really get to learn more about them. I'm also hoping it's somewhat related to the fashion design, sort of like with Ellie, because Ellie's my favorite character, more fashion design in this show, baby! Either way, I also think because of the trio, maybe the friendships with others that they create, and also more of their backstory. Because I do think that exploring their backstory could be extremely interesting depending on what it is. I can also see Tristan getting much more of an earlier boot, though. I'd like to more so think that they're staying up here, but given they don't have much of a plot, they could go early. A lot more of a wild card when it comes to Tristan, but I'm gonna be on the more positive side of that wild card. Yippee! Anyways, number 5 goes to Anastasia. Number 1, the subversion to the mean girl trope and has so much interesting plot potential. I think everyone thought when we saw Anastasia's audition, alright, this is the Heather, this is the Regina George, this is the Julia of the season, alright, she's gonna make it far, but she isn't that. Yeah, she has some of those tendencies, but she deep down is sweeter, kinder, she has nice bonds with the other girls, she's just different from that, and I think that's so interesting, because when have we really seen that? At least from my memory, I have not seen something similar in so long, and because of that, I think that could be really interesting to explore in seeing that. As well, number 2, her strategy, though flawed, can be great if she uses her social abilities as challenges. Anastasia is good in challenges. We see this from episode 2. Her sociability, she's able to get along with people. We see that with Marissa. Not that she gets along with everybody. She hates Linda and is willing to stand up. And again, that's why I say it's flawed. But in a way, it showcases her willingness, and she can do well because of the alliances through her sociability, and from that, she can just become a better player and be able to stick around longer. This is just a quick add-on. 5th is also usually somewhat of a cursed placement, and I just look at Toldrum Island, and I look at Toldrum as a whole, and 5th place is 99.9% of the time a cursed placement. So if we're assuming that here too, Anastasia getting robbed in 5th, I would love for her to win this season. Oh my gosh, yes! I just think that 5th would also fit her in that regard. Number 3, she'd be viewed as the threat. I know I use the threat excuse every time, but a lot of these characters can easily become threats, and I could easily see that being their thing. Rising they get out, while also still being an enemy to Ted. I think because Anastasia would be the one to cause the Linda elimination, Ted would be mad, and therefore Ted targets Anastasia. And since we're assuming Ted is the main antagonist, Ted could probably somewhat easily get Anastasia out. And this would also cause Spencer and Jade to probably target her in a way, because if Anastasia's being targeted and it isn't them, that's probably for the best. I do think Ted would also be the Spencer and Jade duo as a huge issue later on, but he'd probably view Anastasia as a bigger issue because he not only saw Anastasia go out, but he can also probably find some other excuse to ruin Jade and Spencer. Look, but we managed to do it! Ted can too! Hooray! Speaking of the duo, I think 4th goes to Jade. I could also see her make the finale being a returning winner, which, spoiler alert for II3, but being a returnee winner can happen with Cappy, and that was just so cool. So seeing her maybe be a returnally finalist or something like that could be really cool. Anyways, spoilers end here. Alrighty, number 1, not Spencer and Jade can both make the finale. If we're assuming here that my final 4 is correct, which is Jade, Spencer, Ted, and Isabel, 2 from each team, which under whatever, I just don't see them both even making the finale because they are too on well terms. We need the people to have beef. We need the people to have drama, and therefore send Jade back in. Number 2, again, backstory potential. Jade's backstory has a lot of potential because we also haven't seen someone with vitiligo in this type of series just yet either. So getting to really explore how that has affected her own life and really getting to see that representation could be so interesting, as the accurate, of course, and really just develop her as an individual character, because remember, at this point, she'd be, at least before, if she's eliminated in 15, it'd be just more so strategic. It could be really interesting to see this. And number 3, her strategy focus allows her to stay, and the fact she is returning brings so much motivation to her. She got out once, but she gets the second chance. It brings her so much faith in thinking that she can do this. She is able to make it far. And again, her strategy is one of the best, as you've seen in the first few episodes, and since she has such a strong strategy focus, and she can course correct now because she knows what she's flawed in, given her elimination, she gets time to really think about it. It works perfectly for Jade. For her arcs, I think it'll focus on her backstory with Vitiligo. Oh my gosh, my pronunciation today. I think it'll also focus on her strategy, her dynamics with Spencer. I also think we could see an interesting dynamic with her and Diego, considering they both care for animals. I think that could be a really interesting friendship if we get to see that play out. Now we get to discuss the finale, final 3, which is Spencer, Ted, and Isabel. Let's discuss this. Given how Season 1, Season 2, and Season 3 have all our Final 3s turned into Final 2s, I'm assuming the same happens here with the 2-part finale. 26 episodes, come on y'all, they can splurge on a 2-part finale if they can do it for I think season 3 had one. Season 2 obviously had one, but I think season 3 had one. Don't quote me on that. I chose these 3 because Ted is the main antagonist. We always need your local antagonist in the finale, and there's always been an antagonist in the final 3. We can see this from Rhea in both season 2 and season 3, and we can also see this from Fiore in season 1. Isabel is the blue team representative because I wanted to have one from each team minimum in the final 3, as well as she's kind of like a wild card, and as well as she's the more heroic person. I don't want her to become a villain, and I don't think she will, but she also has some mixed morals, which I think could play very interesting. Again, season 1 worked out really well because of some of the mixed morals there in the finale, and I think it was really cool. Either way, Spencer is going to be the red team representative. Interesting in the possible main couple, because come on here, the only finale that did not have a main couple member in the final 3 was season 1, because I do not consider Ellie and Gabby the main couple of season 1, even though they are the best. Okay, we're getting a little off track, but he also has the mixed morals and could be awesome and heroic. This could definitely flip between Isabel and Spencer, depending. Either way, I think Spencer's gonna get third anyways. I think Spencer could be so interesting to make it far because, yes, he is the main couple, but he also has so much more than that this time. He has a lot more personality as we're being seen. Not that Diego has any yet, but you know. Anyways, number 1, so much plot and protagonist, kind of like I just said. Within 2 episodes, he has gone. Let's list this. An alliance with Jade, a slow burn dynamic with Diego, most power over the team as assumed, his backstory, his motivations, his rivalry with Amelie. I could go on, and getting this much in your first 2 episodes is unreal, appreciable, unless you are a protagonist. The main couple always gets plot armor like with Diego, so he can build off of that. Not even mentioning his somewhat awkward social skills, so he can develop it through that too. There's so much here to go for that I don't see him going anytime soon. He could easily take up 26 episodes, no problem. Number 2, strategy. Spencer is very strategy focused, and when I say very, I mean very. He is making alliances at the get-go, trying to become somewhat of a really important member on the team. And I do think his confusion with the strategy too later on could be really interesting. He's gonna choose Diego, let's be real, but in the end, I think that though that weakens his game by a landslide, he doesn't get eliminated and he pulls this like underdog story where he makes it to the top or something like that, to where, again, he's one of the most strategic of the cast right now, and that's gonna pay him benefits because you gotta have strategy in this game to win. Number 3, losing counts predictable as protagonist. In a way, Spencer to me is way too predictable of a winner to become the winner. It's kind of like Jake from Disventure Camp All-Stars, where he is way too predictable of a winner to really win. Spencer has gotten so much focus that I do view him as the protagonist of the season, but in a way, I don't think he can win because of it. Ellie is what some may say the protagonist. Again, it's really hard to really tell for season 1, which more power to season 1 for that. But either way, the protagonist usually gets around the 3rd spot. They never make it to the finale, and they usually don't win. So I think Spencer's not going to be able to win, but I do think they're going to be able to make it to 3rd. I also do think he would lose the challenge. Yes, he was really strong in the Battering Brawl challenge, but in the end, I think it'll be more mental that he'll need to be able to do to win. I do think he could do decently in physical, but compared to like Ted and Isabel, I also think it would be more interesting to see them win over him. That's my take. And going up to 2nd, we give Ted number 1. Main antagonists mostly lose. I say mostly because of Rhea, however, I don't see the same thing happening here because Ted is much different antagonist than her, and most people dislike that ending, so. However, main antagonists always make it further, usually 4th and 2nd, excluding winning here. And I think it's the higher end of the spectrum, mainly because of the final 2 of every final 3 of Disventure Camp. It has a villain there regardless, which again, Rhea Fiore for the seasons. Therefore, we have number 2, the main antagonist. There always needs to be a villain there. If he's going to be the main antagonist, which I'm personally theorizing, because again, his unique abilities to just tell when people are lying instantly, that's so interesting, and I think that could be great for his villain arc. And there always needs to be a villain, someone to cause the drama in the finales. We see this with Fiore again. We see this with Rhea. And also his defeat would be really satisfying here. I'm sorry, but if Isabel's the one to take him down, someone he underestimated from the start, oh my gosh, beautiful bliss. Either way, number 3, his plot with Linda Richard's strategic edge. He knows how to maneuver his way through this game. He knows what he needs to do, and we can see that in the first, not episode elimination. Not that it completely succeeded, however, he knew what he needed to do in order to keep him safe and to try to keep him safe in a way that's really good. I also assume his plot with Richard, because again, if we're seeing this from the intro, it's predicting something with Richard, Linda, and Ted here. Remember the strategic edge. Ted is so strategic in the end of it all, and I do think that's going to be able to benefit him. I always view more strategy and gameplay as somewhat of a benefit to the competitors, and Ted is no different. And he's also not a challenge threat. Let's be real, we think Ted is going to be the biggest challenge threat. He strategically makes sure that he isn't that way. Yes, he's good at challenges, but he hides it somewhat by making sure that he's one of the last ones. He barely wins. He barely does it, barely, to where he does enough to keep himself safe, but in a way where he isn't viewed as a threat. Genius, I say. Genius. Please make him the main antagonist. And this leaves one to be the winner. Isabelle. Isabelle's a winner pick. I don't think many people would expect me to choose her of all characters, but here's why. Number one, she's very unpredictable. How many people would think none at the beginning would win? That's not what people would expect. That's not what people would think from the surface of her either. It's more unpredictability for Isabelle's character, which I think could elevate it, and plus I think she has all the capabilities to be a great winner. Again, Disventure Camp always goes for the unpredictable winners. I can trust you. If anyone said at the beginning of Disventure Camp All-Stars Rhea was gonna win, they were either joking or were not telling the truth. If you were serious, that's great predictability to you, though. Either way, number two, she's strategic. She took the idol for herself. She knows how to do it. She's good socially. We know she's good socially because she is able to build bonds with Natalia and the other girls, quite frankly, easily. Physically, we obviously haven't seen as much of this, but I do think she's able to pull herself in physical challenges, or at least enough to stick around. Again, as long as you are decently well-rounded, you can stick around. Or even then, you don't have to be completely well-rounded to stay. I just assume. Number three, and she can have really interesting plots. Given her background, we know her past, that's so interesting. Her parents weren't Catholic, we could see more of how that has affected her on a mental state. We could see more of her duo. We could see the Girls' Alliance in the end. We could see how she used the idol. I could go on and on and on, but she could be such a likable winner because of it. She could be one of the most interesting winners out there to date, and because of that, I think she's our winner. The host subplot. Alright, we're gonna get this out of the way because I don't really care about this, but whatever. Every season of Disventure Camp to date has had a subplot that happens in the background. Some with a lot more focus than others. I assume here it'll be more in the back in the very later season, if anything, yada yada. I think Emily will get redemption. I do think she'll cause chaos for a while, but after what happened in episode 20, I feel there's a lot of potential to have her grow from that and develop. And no, Emily, what truly do we get to see about her in Disventure Camp All-Stars? Generic relationship development, I'm gonna be quite honest, I rather these two as best friends. However, I hope I have to show why they worked well together and giving more development to what happened in Disventure Camp All-Stars, whatever else. Or even better, continue what they're doing now and they have quiet 1 second or you miss it moments. Hooray! I don't have to deal with watching them. On to the conclusion.
Hey, Spence.
You busy? Because I think it's time we take over this team and lock in a core 5.
There we go. A full 26 episode season full of predictions prepared to be proven wrong within a few episodes. Still, I had a lot of fun with this and hope you did too while watching. Thank you so much for checking into the channel. I really appreciate it. Any comments and forms of support, I am so grateful. And almost to 4K subscribers. Thanks so much. Either way, have an amazing day/night, and I hope to have you here next time.